Are Social Security benefits going to be really cut? Now, research has just been released on the biggest issue that Social Security is facing right now. The groups of lawmakers are pushing for immediate action to be taken in order to prevent recipients from losing tens of thousands of dollars. For many retirees, Social Security benefits, or at least some of them, are subject to the federal income tax. Depending on your income after retirement, you may have to pay federal income tax on as much as 85% of your Social Security income. But what about state taxes? Are you going to pay for your Social Security benefits to the IRS and pay even more tax when you file your state tax return? The short answer is that it depends on where you live. Some state and Social Security tax income and others don't. Now, there is good news for the new retirees. 39 states plus DC don't even tax Social Security benefits at all. Depending on your income and other tax situations, you might still have to pay tax on your Social Security income level at the federal level, that is. Now, overall, Social Security funding crisis could be on the horizon if policymakers fail to take action to protect the program in the next decades, threatening a 33% cut to all 70 million benefits. The analysis of U.S. Budget Watch 2024, a project from the Committee for Responsible for the Budget, predicts that if the primary trust fund that's used to bankroll Social Security runs out of reserves by 2033, the average newly retired people for dual income couple would actually see an immediate reduction of $17,000. Single income couples will lose $13,000, and once a trust fund is depleted by law, it can only spend as much as it receives in incoming revenue, resulting in cuts for all beneficiaries. Now, the warning comes as candidates in the next presidential election face partisan pressure to promise not to touch Social Security. It's a move that would say it's spell disaster. And the Social Security Administration just mostly supports retired workers, but it also provides monthly benefits through the smaller SSI program. These programs are paid out through two separate trust funds, but the latest report is focused on one of the retirement benefits. Benefits for retired workers who are largely funded by payroll taxes that are deposited into the trust fund. The average monthly Social Security payment comes out to about $1,700, which roughly translates to $20,000 a year. Now, Mary Johnson, the Social Security analysis, told reporters that if history is any indication, the latest prediction of a universal 23% cut by 2033 is a real possibility. She says that many groups have tried and failed to navigate and negotiate changes to ensure the long-term viability of Social Security. Johnson says insolvency could score a dramatic increase in poverty among the older adults. Smaller tax-paying beneficiaries, especially those who receive most of all their income, may not be able to pay for basics like food, shelter, and healthcare. Lawmakers may seem from an agreement on how to fix Social Security, but they have time before insolvency is imminent. Even if the Old Age Survivors Insurance Trust Fund does not become imminent, there is not the same as the program going bankrupt. In January, the trustees outlined potential reforms to bring the program to sustainable solvency and ensure benefits that can be paid in full years for the next 75 years. Some lawmakers propose even raising the full retirement age to 70 years old, which means that current workers will lose 2 to 3 years of benefits. Other solutions include raising the payroll tax to almost 16% or raising the wage gap on Social Security taxes, which is currently at $60,000 a year. Democratic lawmakers have introduced a bill that would actually improve payroll tax on earnings above $250,000, an adjustment that would make an estimate for the CBO and that could delay the insolvency risk date to 2046. Folks, you need to watch out for these major changes that the Federal Reserve is going to release some big news about this information, and so hopefully everybody, Joe Biden can send the fourth stimulus checks and increase the Social Security benefits like he promised to the American people. Because Joe Biden should keep his promise.
Been a little bit right away into some of these Supreme Court rulings. So we got 3 really bad Supreme Court rulings last week. The first was on affirmative action. The Supreme Court essentially struck down affirmative action last week. And this, of course, does have implications for our community. You know, these are institutions that have historically excluded on the basis of race, gender, and identity. And affirmative action was a program that was meant to make up for the harm of that and legacy of the history of discrimination in these institutions. The Supreme Court struck that down, but I do think it's important to know. And one of the things that we immediately said was affirmative action solely on the basis of race was what was overturned. But affirmative action for wealth and privilege, if your parents attended college or if your parents gave money to a school, that was untouched. Affirmative action based on geography was untouched. Affirmative action based on virtually any other factor was left untouched. The Supreme Court solely said that race and a person's racial identity is the only thing that's not allowed to be considered.
Big news has been announced and there are new proposals currently on the table. It would make a dramatic positive impact for the Social Security people. Joe Biden is making a big decision on this in order to try to avoid Social Security cuts for all recipients. Top senators for both parties are working to save Social Security benefits. Everyone in DC knows that Social Security is in trouble. They only have to listen to the federal government and the program's trustees. In the latest report, the trustees projected that Social Security's combined trust funds is already running out of money, and by 2034, the program's done. But some in Washington are working on solutions to prevent the program from becoming insolvent. One of them, Senate Republican Bill Cassidy, recently revealed what he called a big idea in a webcast hosted by the Bipartisan Policy Center that could roughly save 75% of the program's projected shortfall. The proposal is to create an investment fund that's completely separate from Social Security's current trust funds. This new investment fund would invest money in the stock market, where Social Security trust funds currently put money in treasury bills or cash. Now, what I mean is that he called Social Security's current approach the Silicon Valley Bank of Pension Funds, a reference to the failed bank that was acquired by the First Citizens Bank. He argued that this federal program is the worst investment strategy you can have right now. The separate fund isn't really a new idea, though, because he pointed to other funds, including the Canada Plan and Ontario Pensions Plan for teachers, that were in bad shape financially but became solvent by using a market-based strategy. There are some details remaining to be worked out. For instance, some people think the proposed plan will be a gap stop to guarantee that if they won't lose money if the stock market underperforms. Cassie said the participation is now needed from both Democratic and Republican leaders to take action for Social Security. Even though the President and Congress have limited options for preserving Social Security, they can either raise additional money, reduce benefits, or do both. Because President Biden has been adamantly against any reduction in benefits. Even Senator Cassidy said that it's not right to do that. Steep benefit cuts are on the way if nothing is done. Because of this, Americans who have retired yet should save as much as they can in retirement accounts to get things ready for the financial shortfall. And Senator Cassidy stated in the Bipartisan Policy Center that it's going to take a while and take both sides to get this deal done.
Kind of taking it on the chin, particularly at the gas pump or even at the grocery store. So any little bit is a big help.
It's transition to the cold weather day for retiree Pat Siraki of Livonia. He put away the summer pinwheels and plants, but his outdoor work came after his computer check of the Social Security increase.
Americans who are on Social Security are expected to get more in their monthly check.
The U.S. government is expected to announce what could be one of the biggest rate hikes in decades tomorrow.
Target 12 consumer investigator Sarah Granelli breaks down that and what it could mean for you.
Percent is already the biggest bump to benefits since '81, when the COLA hit an all-time high of 11.2%. According to a poll from the Motley Fool, some say it's just not enough to deal with ongoing inflation. 55% of retirees believe that the 2023 COLA could have been even higher. Advocates for seniors also argue that the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers is the metric used to calculate the annual adjustment isn't as accurate